Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my old tractor shed. This morning I'm just kind of looking at all the gears and pieces that I've taken off the tractor in the last 3 or 4 days. Got the input-output shaft that I'm going to look at in a minute. Underneath the rags there's the power shaft. What I got here is the shaft that I've been after this whole time, the counter shaft. And I've sorted out all the pieces. Some of this I took off quite a while ago, some of these snap rings, whatnot. I'll include a picture of what's going on here. The end that had the bearing, of course, I got the snap ring, 18, and behind it was a little washer, 15. Then there's a fairly heavy snap ring that held the bearing into the housing. Then there was a washer and a shim, and then, of course, there was the bearing. This morning I was laying stuff out and looking at things and looking at the picture, and I'm thinking, there's another washer here somewhere. Well, sure enough, in the housing, there's another washer, and then there's another snap ring. The same weight as this number 14 snap ring. It's still in the machine. And then there were these two little shims. When I had put the bearing puller on that bearing, previous video, after I got it off, there was two shims on here. And I had thought I'd seen something fly. And I had looked quite a bit yesterday. I did go back and look at the video, and my wife and I watched it 2 or 3 times, and I could have swore I saw something fall, and it looked like it went inside the housing. Sure enough, there was another washer shim spacer, and it's actually a little heavier. The two shims that are on the end of this shaft are quite thin, and there's a radius in here, and these two have a mark that's created from that radius. Well, this washer that's here has the exact same radius, so for sure, that's what I saw go flying. The rest of this is of course the gear that's damaged. There's the chip that's out of it, and I included some pictures in the last video. I'll put them in again. This gear is cracked, and you can see weld, and they've really made a mess of this shaft. And then of course the snap ring that held that gear on, and there's one snap ring missing, and then this end here goes into a needle bearing that's still in the housing. I have washed this, and I've looked this gear over, and obviously there's a needle bearing in there, snap ring on the end here to take that apart. At the moment, I'm not going to take this any further apart. I am simply going to give it a generous coating of this penetrating oil from, this is Crown, not sponsored. At least at the time of videotaping this, not sponsored, but yeah. I love this stuff. It's good stuff. I'm going to coat all this with some rust inhibitor, and then put it all in plastic bags and put it away. And I am going to have to go and try and find this shaft for sure, and this gear, and I have a gear we're going to look at in a second on that one that I'm probably going to have to find. So yeah, all my parts match, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to put this all back away. I got the bags here with all the numbers of everything. We'll put this away, and then we'll get into that gear train. So see you in a minute. Alrighty, guys, I got all the gear spread out for this. This is the power shaft. This is the one with those two fancy nuts on either end. I think I've got everything laid out in order. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, guys. I'll throw an image of the page from the parts manual and power shaft, and yeah, nothing seems to be missing. Starting in my upper left is nut 27. Then 28 is that washer. In a previous video I had mentioned that it has these little tabs. In the parts manual it shows a tab in the center, but somebody has bent the sides which would lock into the nuts. I'm still not completely certain of what's going on here. I'll have to get a close-up image. I had picked a piece out of the one end, and actually there's still a piece jammed here. I got this close-up camera running, but I actually had to raise it up higher. I built a little stand to try and get better video. But I actually had to raise it up to get everything in view. So it's not really a close-up, I guess. It's just a top-down view. Anyway, there's a little broken piece there. I'll take a still image and insert it. Come off of one of these washers. Yeah, they're both similar. I don't really understand exactly. I'm sure when I'm putting it back together, it's going to become a little bit more clear. Hey guys, editing this video, looking at these gear train and this washer 28 in the parts manual 28, had me quite confused, and it's been driving me crazy. And Oh, that's a very short trip. Come back out here this morning, looking at it a little closer, and pretty obvious, I screwed this up. I didn't catch the fact that these tabs were bent into the four grooves of this nut. In the parts manual, you can see the internal tab. I'll put a close-up of it, number 28. You can see that internal tab, which in turn goes into there's still a piece in this one, I haven't taken it out yet, goes into that groove on the main shaft, and they're both ends, they were both broken. I didn't notice that it was bent into here. Really easy to see when you're looking down on it, and you're looking in from the end, not quite so easy to see. And again, I'm making excuses, but the one for sure was inside that housing, really hard to see. I didn't catch it. I screwed it up. Oops. So yeah, obviously, I was trying to figure out how I got the little piece that I took out at the other end there. TIG welder, maybe. I could weld it back on. Or if I have to, I'll just weld a piece of flat plate and then file it and grind it, whatever. I'm probably going to be finding a used transmission someplace to get all these bits and pieces I have. I'll probably get a washer there. But you know, I've been looking at this for a few minutes out here this morning. I understand the internal tab is going to go into the groove of that of the shaft, and I realized that the external ones, the factory didn't put anything there because you don't know where the nut's going to stop. But how the hell are you supposed to get behind here to bend this tab? That's got me really puzzled. I've been looking at that actually for a few minutes. The only thing I can think is maybe a really skinny pair of channel locks. You could get in there and just kind of pull it. I don't know how a guy's do it. Clearly it's been done. And clearly I screwed this up. So yeah, I'm going to have to find, not only I'd like to replace these nuts because they're so chewed up with the chisel, but I'm obviously going to have to find these washers too. Oh well, life goes on. I'm going to insert this somewhere. Back to the past. See ya. Then there's a gray big heavy washer, 28. Then there's snap ring number 8. And this is the gear that was inside the housing where you were supposed to use 2 bolts to pull it out. This here, part number 5, and inside it's got 2 bearings. They're both number 6. They're needle bearings. And there's some kind of little retainer there. I'm not taking that apart. I've been turning them by hand. So far, everything actually feels really, really good. And then that's the inner race for one of these bearings. I don't remember which one, but that's the inner race for that. Next is this gear number 11. Now this is the one that... I just seen something new here. This is the one that had the chip. And I see right there, looks like somebody's accidentally hit that with a welding stick. Probably when they were welding that other thing. That's certainly there and here as well. Isn't that interesting? I've taken a couple close-up pictures of this chipped gear, and I see a couple of hairline cracks right where that chip is. But the rest of this gear, I had my really good glasses on, spent a few minutes looking it over. I don't see any issues other than that chip. We'll get back to it. If I end up going to the scrapyard and finding the counter shaft in that gear, well, I'm probably going to be able to get that gear as well. Next we got this snap ring 8. I've lost where I am. Oh, there I am. Number 8. And then there's a gear here that's actually one of those collars that changes your gears. I actually had to go right off my little black piece of plywood here. Snap ring number 4. And when I was disassembling this, oh, wait a minute. Oh, there's 2 snap ring 4s. Yeah. They actually go on either side of this gear. This is gear number 3, and this is shaft number 1. This gear is seized on here, something fierce. In the instructions, when you're taking that off, it actually said to remove that one snap ring and then move it back. I had put a block of wood up against it. See a little chip there too, I just noticed. I could not move it. I was just disassembling it. I was taking this number 14 off, and this funny little ring fell out of here. It took me a few minutes to figure out where it goes, but it goes up onto those splines. There's actually some marks on it that, from the snap ring that's left a little impression there. And that was actually would give me the hint to where it belongs. It goes up on there. Yeah, there's just enough room. There's just enough room in there for the snap ring, and then that in turn provides a surface. It's got to be number 14. Yeah, that rides on there. You can see where it's been almost like a bearing surface, I guess. Oh, I'm moving things around here now. That's 13. That's 14. So this is gear 14, and within it, it's got another roller bearing 15, and it's got a little retainer number 16. Again, I'm sure if I try to get those out, I'm going to damage them, so I'm not taking those out. Then we've got another little gear here, 17, and another shifter collar, 18, and then we get gear 19, and within it, it's got two roller bearings, number 20s, and then there's a retainer on each end, 21s. Then we got a heavy washer with some kind of a bevel on there, that's 22. And then we've got 23, 24, and 26. 23 is a bearing, 24 is a washer, spacer, 26 snap ring. They're still in the housing. Then we've got a shim, number 25, and we got a spacer, number 24, then we get a snap ring, 26, and then we got another one of those washers that would have been, some of its tabs would have been bent, but they're broken, 28, and locking nut, 27. Yeah, okay. Same thing as the counter shaft. I'm going to put a little bit of crown on these things. I've got a bunch of bags here going. I might rearrange that. I might put some of this back together and put it in a larger bag. So yeah, back to finding a used transmission. I would like to replace these nuts, replace number gear 11, these little washer things. I'm actually making quite a list of things that I need. But I've taken a couple still images. Had to get a ladder and get up, take a still image of this. It's fine. Yeah, just in case it's a while, and I'm sure it's going to be a while. This will be very helpful, getting this all back together. So I'm going to put some rust inhibitor on these things, put them all in bags, put them all away in that cupboard, and we'll go on to the next shaft. Stay tuned. Back in a minute. Okay guys, I got all the parts and gears and everything laid out for the input-output shaft. The end with the pinion, of course, is the output. The solid shaft and that hollow shaft, that's the input. I don't have the hollow shaft here. That's I've got that all tore apart and put away already. From the extreme right, we had some bolts with, this piece is actually the locking mechanism. Once you tighten the bolt, you bend these over. And in behind this, I immediately took those off, and this come away a little bit. There's two sets of these half shims. They are for setting the backlash or preload, I'm not 100% sure, between the pinion and the crown gear. So these are important. I have them kept them in separate bags so I don't mix that up. The other ones are still in the bag. Also in the manual, it talks about the gasket that goes between the final drive and the transmission. I believe it said it needs to be 8 thou. I don't remember what that's in metric. I'll do it down below. Because that gasket also has an effect on the crown and pinion alignment. So I got to order that piece of gasket material. Then getting into the rest of this unit, I'm not going to take it apart. There's two bearings. They're a tapered roller bearing. Obviously, they're designed to take some lateral thrust. I'm guessing the pinion gear will push and pull depending on if you're in forward or reverse, because there's two of these tapered roller bearings in there. And then there's two nuts, two of number 17, and between them there's like a star washer, and one tab bends one way, the other tab bends the other way. I'm guessing that The first nut sets the preload on the bearings, and then the second nut is just a jam nut so that doesn't move. I am not going to fool with that. I've spun this a few times. I may wash this and then just, I'm going to put it all in a plastic bag, keep it clean, but I may wash it in the parts washer and blow it all out and just put some oil in it. But I'm not going to fool with it. Then behind that, they show a washer number 20, and then there's actually 2 shims. Again, this is for setting some kind of preloads on something. The parts manual doesn't show the shims, but there was a couple places in the service manual that they talk about the shims, and they say if installed or something or other. So clearly they don't all have it. At the factory they must put this together and then take some measurements and make a decision about shims. I'm just going to put them back the way they are. I'm not going to fool with it. Then we go into all the gears. Gear 19, Gear 21, and then there's that heavy-duty snap ring 22 that yesterday when I was fooling with this, I had to be real careful on this bearing surface, because then the next gear, 23, has 2 roller bearings in there, needle bearings. Keep calling them roller bearings. Needle bearings, roller bearings, whatever. The book only shows 1, but there's definitely 2 of them, and they run on that surface. Not sure why. But yeah, they're only showing 1 in the book, but there's definitely 2. So that's gear 23. And then there's another gear spacer kind of a thing. It ends up running on the inside of the shifter collar. That's number 25. And then we get, where are we? Keep losing myself here. 28, a washer, 28, snap ring 27, and then that shifter fork 26. And then continuing on that picture, this is the solid input shaft. Our bearing 12, and then there's a snap ring in the bearing. That's when it slides into the housing. It doesn't go too far. And then there's a washer 9 and a snap ring 10, which again, I'm leaving this assembled. I had that all wrapped up in a rag to keep it clean, which I'm going to put back in. And then all of this stuff, this is the retainer that holds that on, which it all came apart pretty easy yesterday. I was pleasantly surprised. Once again, this isn't on this page. This you got to go back to the transmission housing and associated parts. So this is number 9. There's 2 thin shims that fit inside here. There's number 10, and then there's 2 more going to be shims that go there, and then that slides on here. And all of that gets wiggled so that you're not pinching anything. And then that's what holds on. A couple bolts with some locking tabs. Hold that whole assembly together. So, same as the other 2 ones, I'm going to spray a little bit of Crown Rust Inhibitor. Again, not sponsored. I do like it. Good stuff. I'm going to coat all of this, put it all back in its plastic bags. I got a large garbage bag for this. My little Ziploc bags aren't big enough. Put this all in the box, put it all away. Yeah, and I have to go look for some parts. I mentioned earlier that I've got a line on a John Deere 510, a similar year to this. Another tractor enthusiast. Purchased it for parts for something he was working on. I haven't talked to him too much about it yet. He mentioned to me if I need some parts to let him know. I need to check the serial number. I looked at the brake disc several videos back, and the brake disc is the same between the 710 and the 510. And I looked at the part numbers for that counter shaft. The part numbers are the same, but there's serial number ranges. Up to a certain serial number is one, and after it's another one. So I have to check my machine, his machine. Fingers crossed. The numbers are in the right range, and then I got to go talk to him, see what I can do there. But it's going to be a little while, so I'm going to just put all this stuff away and then carry on. I'm not sure what I'm taking apart next, but I'll find something to take apart. Don't you worry. Yeah. So I can take a few pictures of this, oil everything up, put it away. I think we're going to end this video here. Certainly do appreciate your time. You know the YouTube drill. If you enjoy hanging out in the shop with me, consider subscribing, click the bell so you know when I post videos. If you'd like to help me out at all, you click the like, share with anybody you think might be interested in, leave some kind of comment, all the usual YouTube blah, blah, blah. Regardless, I certainly do appreciate you hanging out in the shop with me, so thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. See you next time in my old tractor shed. Ciao. Water pump is running. Means my sweetheart is probably doing laundry. She's a good woman.